Step away from that entrance. Officer Robert Andrews grabs Linda Patterson's arm outside the Walmart automatic doors. A 71-year-old woman's shopping bag drops to the concrete. Her glucose test strips scatter across the sidewalk. I just purchased these for my sister. Shut it. Andrews yanks her purse from her shoulder. You people always claim you paid. The contents spill across a metal bench. Lipstick, wallet, reading glasses, her late husband's photo in a silver frame. Shoppers freeze mid-step. Phones rise. Someone gasps. Please, officer, there's been a mistake. No mistake, ma'am. Officer Daryl Schwartz blocks her path to the parking lot. We watched you the whole time. The handcuffs snap shut. Linda winces as cold metal bites into her wrists. Her green blazer bunches awkwardly behind her back. A teenage girl live streams from 10 feet away, whispering into her phone camera. They're arresting an old lady for nothing. An elderly black woman brutalized outside a suburban Walmart, treated like she belongs in chains instead of the federal courtroom, where she spent 28 years delivering verdicts. You're hurting me. Good. Andrews shoves her toward the squad car. Maybe you'll think twice next time. But Linda Patterson has spent 4 decades thinking carefully about justice, about power, about who deserves respect and who decides. She spent 28 years on the federal bench, learning exactly where authority begins and ends. When she speaks again, the words that come out will teach Andrews exactly who belongs where. What she reveals next destroys his career. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see our story family around the world. Linda Patterson had started this Thursday like any other since retiring 2 years ago. Coffee at 5:45 a.m. in her kitchen, where morning light filtered through lace curtains. Classical music playing softly from the radio, her husband Michael bought in 1987, the year she was appointed to the bench. Toast with honey, the kind Michael used to make before the heart attack took him 3 winters ago. His photograph sat on the windowsill where the sun could reach it. Michael in his Navy uniform, young and smiling, before law school, before their 42 years together, before the cancer. Her sister Carmen's call came at 7:30 a.m. Linda, I'm down to my last 3 test strips. The diabetes is acting up again. Carmen's voice carried that exhaustion that comes from managing illness alone. Her husband had left 5 years ago. Her daughter worked 2 states away. Linda was all she had. I'll get them today. Don't worry. She'd never broken a promise to Carmen. Not when their mother died. Not when Carmen's marriage collapsed. Not now. The Walmart on Route 34 sat in a quiet Illinois suburb where oak trees lined residential streets and neighbors still knew each other's names. Linda had been shopping here for 8 years, ever since she and Michael moved closer to Carmen. The staff recognized her. The manager, Patricia Chen, always asked about her sister's health. The young cashier, Marcus, remembered Linda preferred the self-checkout to avoid small talk. This wasn't some high-crime area where tensions ran hot. This was Riverside, where retired professionals lived alongside teachers and small business owners, where a woman like Linda Patterson belonged, even if 2 officers with quotas to fill couldn't see past the color of her skin or the weight of her years. She parked near the pharmacy entrance. The autumn air felt crisp against her face. She adjusted the strap of her leather purse, the one Michael gave her for their 40th anniversary. Inside, she moved through familiar aisles. Glucose test strips, vitamin D for Carmen's bone health, a heating pad for the arthritis in her hands. She didn't notice the 2 officers near the entrance, watching. She didn't see them exchange glances when she paused to check her shopping list. She didn't hear Officer Andrews whisper to Officer Schwartz, "That's 3 minutes." She's nervous. Mark her. Linda Patterson had spent 28 years presiding over cases about reasonable suspicion, probable cause, unlawful detention. She'd written opinions on the 4th Amendment that law students still studied, but she'd never imagined she'd become the subject of one. She paid at the self-checkout, scanned each item carefully, placed her receipt in her purse the way she always did, methodical, organized, the habits of a judge who valued precision. The automatic doors opened. Sunlight warmed her face. She took 3 steps towards her car. Then everything changed. "Hey, step away from that entrance. Your support keeps these emotional, powerful stories coming. And trust me, you won't want to miss this one." 6 hours earlier, Linda Patterson's alarm chimed at 5:30 a.m. She woke to darkness broken only by streetlight filtering through her bedroom curtains. The house settled around her with familiar creaks and sighs. Empty. Michael's side of the bed hadn't been slept in for 3 years, but she still made it every morning out of habit, smoothing the quilt they'd bought together in Vermont during their 20th anniversary trip. The kitchen welcomed her with the scent of yesterday's coffee grounds still sitting in the filter. She filled the kettle, set it on the stove, and waited for the water to boil while classical music drifted from the radio. Tchaikovsky this morning. Michael had loved Tchaikovsky. His photograph sat on the windowsill where dawn would eventually reach it. Navy uniform pressed sharp, eyes bright with youth and possibility. That photo was taken 2 months before he proposed. Before law school consumed them both. Before she became Judge Patterson, and he became the man who never resented standing in her shadow. "You're exactly where you belong," he used to say whenever doubt crept in during those early years on the bench. Making sure everyone else gets there too. The tea steeped in her favorite mug, the one with a crack along the handle she refused to replace. Toast with honey. Sliced banana. The morning paper delivered to her front step at precisely 6 a.m., the way it had been for 20 years. She read the headlines while eating. A corruption case in Chicago. Budget debates in Springfield. An opinion piece about judicial reform that got half the facts wrong. She'd stopped writing correction letters after retirement. Some battles weren't hers to fight anymore. At 7:30 a.m., her phone rang. Linda. Carmen's voice sounded thin, strained. "I'm sorry to call so early." "You're never sorry. What's wrong?" "Down to 3 test strips. I thought I had more, but I must have miscounted. The diabetes is..." Her sister's breath hitched. "It's bad this week. Numbers all over the place." Linda set down her tea. "I'll go today. This morning. Don't worry. You don't have to..." "Carmen." Linda's voice carried the firmness that once silenced arguing attorneys. "I'm getting them today." After they hung up, Linda sat for a moment in the quiet kitchen. Carmen had been managing diabetes for 12 years, ever since their mother's death. The disease ran in their family like a curse passed down through generations. Their mother, their grandmother, now Carmen. Linda had been spared. Somehow, she dressed carefully, navy slacks. The green blazer Michael bought her for their 40th anniversary, 2 months before he died. Pearl earrings, comfortable shoes. Even in retirement, even running errands, she maintained the dignity her mother had insisted upon. "They'll judge you twice as harshly," her mother used to say, "so you give them half as much to criticize." By 9 a.m., Linda was in her car, driving through streets she'd known for nearly a decade. Riverside had welcomed them when Michael's health required a slower pace, when federal court demands needed proximity to Carmen. The neighborhood stretched quiet and tree-lined, modest homes with well-kept lawns, American flags hanging from porches. The Walmart parking lot was half empty when she arrived. Thursday morning shoppers, mostly retirees, and young mothers with strollers. That's when she noticed them. 2 police officers stood near the entrance, partially obscured by the concrete support column. One younger, thicker build. One older, leaner, with a hardness around his mouth. They weren't browsing. They weren't shopping. They were watching. Linda passed within 10 feet of them on her way inside. "One more, and we hit the weekly target," the younger one was saying, voice low, but not quite low enough. "Elderly's easiest," the older one replied. "They don't fight back, don't know their rights. Need someone with probable cause, though. Can't just, 'We'll find it, always do.'" Linda's legal instinct stirred. recognition blooming uneasily in her chest. Quotas. Pressure tactics. The ugly machinery of policing gone wrong. She'd presided over cases built on exactly this kind of misconduct. But she was shopping for her sister. Not presiding over anything. Not anymore. She pushed through the automatic doors into fluorescent brightness. Behind her, Officer Robert Andrews watched her go. That one, he said quietly. Officer Darrell Schwartz followed his gaze. An elderly black woman, alone, expensive-looking purse, moving with careful dignity through the entrance. What about her? Fits the profile. Elderly. Nervous. Probably stuffs items in that big purse. She looked pretty calm to me. Andrews shifted his weight. They always look calm until you catch them. Watch. She'll do something suspicious. What they saw wasn't Linda Patterson, retired federal judge, sister, widow, woman who'd spent 28 years weighing evidence and demanding proof before condemning anyone. They saw an easy mark, a number to fill their quota. An elderly black woman alone with a purse. Convenient prey. Inside, Linda selected her items methodically. Glucose test strips from the pharmacy section. Vitamin D. The heating pad Carmen mentioned last week. She moved through familiar aisles, unaware of the surveillance beginning to tighten around her like a noose. Unaware that 6 hours from now, she'd be in handcuffs. Unaware that the quiet morning errand she'd promised her sister would become the moment that changed everything. Now, sit comfortably, take a deep breath, and let's get into it. Officer Robert Andrews had been on the force for 11 years. 11 years of traffic stops and domestic disputes, and paperwork that never ended. 11 years watching younger officers leapfrog past him toward detective positions while he stayed stuck in patrol. Numbers. Captain Morrison had said at last month's briefing. We need numbers. Retail theft is up 40% this quarter. I want detentions. I want arrests. I want results. Morrison's eyes had swept the room, landing on Andrews and Schwartz. You two are below target. Way below. Get it up, or we'll find officers who can. Promotion reviews were in 6 weeks. Andrews needed this. Needed something on his record besides mediocre performance evaluations, and one excessive force complaint that got buried in paperwork. Schwartz needed it too. Child support payments. An ex-wife who kept dragging him back to court. The pay bump from moving up would change everything. Focus on elderly suspects, Morrison had added. They're nervous. Make mistakes. Easier to spot. Easier to process. So they'd been watching. All morning. All week. 3 detentions so far this Thursday. A teenager with an unpaid candy bar. A college kid who forgot batteries in his pocket. A homeless man who hadn't actually stolen anything but smelled bad enough that the manager wanted him gone anyway. One more, and they'd hit their weekly target. One more, and Morrison would notice. Andrews watched Linda Patterson pause just inside the entrance, adjusting her purse strap on her shoulder. Her hand lingered there. Nervous gesture, checking the bag's weight. There, he muttered to Schwartz. Watch her. She looks fine to me. They always do. That's the point. Andrews moved closer, keeping distance, using a clothing rack as cover. Big purse, loose blazer, perfect for concealment. Inside the store, Linda moved through aisles unaware. The pharmacy section first. She picked up glucose test strips, examined the price, placed them carefully in her cart. Standard behavior. But Andrews saw something else. Hesitation. Guilt. The slight pause of someone deciding whether to steal. She's casing items, he whispered into his radio, evaluating value. Schwartz followed from 2 aisles over. She put it in her cart, not her purse. Give it time. Linda continued to the vitamin aisle. Selected vitamin D after reading the label twice. Her methodical nature, the habit of careful review from decades on the bench. But to Andrews, it looked like indecision, nervousness. The behavior Morrison told them to watch for. Nervous handling, he noted. Classic pre-theft anxiety. She moved to the home goods section, picked up a heating pad, checked the price tag, set it down, picked up a different brand, compared specifications. She's selecting high-value items, Andrews said, building her take, or she's shopping. Schwartz sounded uncertain now, like a normal person. Trust me. I've done this 100 times. Linda placed the heating pad in her cart, pushed toward the checkout lanes. She'd been inside exactly 19 minutes. A simple errand. 3 items for Carmen. Nothing suspicious. Nothing wrong. But Andrews had already decided. Self-checkout, he noted, as Linda scanned her items. Thieves prefer self-checkout. Easier to miss items. Forget to scan. Linda scanned the glucose strips, heard the beep, placed them in her bag, scanned the vitamins, beep, into the bag, scanned the heating pad, beep, into the bag. She tapped her credit card against the reader. Waited for approval. The screen flashed green. Transaction complete. She took her receipt, folded it carefully, placed it in her purse. Every single item paid for. Every single step recorded on Walmart's security cameras. But Andrews wasn't watching the cameras. He was watching Linda's hands. She touched her purse 3 times, he said. Concealment behavior. She's got something in there. The receipt, Schwartz said. We watched her put the receipt in there. Or merchandise. Come on. They followed her toward the exit. Linda pushed through the automatic doors into morning sunlight, breathing the cool air, thinking about Carmen, about whether the heating pad would help, about making it home before lunch. She took 3 steps into the parking lot. Hey, step away from that entrance. Andrews grabbed her arm. Linda's shopping bag dropped. Glucose strips scattered across concrete. I just purchased. Shut it. He yanked her purse from her shoulder. You people always claim you paid. The contents exploded across a nearby bench. Wallet, reading glasses, Michael's photograph, her dignity spilling out for strangers to see. Schwartz blocked her path to the parking lot. Uncertain, but committed now. Too far in to back out. Please, officer. There's been a mistake. No mistake. The handcuffs came out. We watched you the whole time. Metal snapped around her wrists. Linda gasped as it cut into her skin. A small crowd formed. Phones appeared, screens glowing. 15 feet away, a teenage girl named Maya Rodriguez had been filming a TikTok dance routine in the parking lot. She stopped mid-move, phone still recording, and turned toward the commotion. She saw an elderly black woman in handcuffs. Saw items scattered across the ground. Saw 2 white officers shoving her toward a squad car. Maya hit the live stream button. Oh my God, she whispered into her phone camera. Y'all, they're arresting an old lady at Walmart. She didn't do anything. She literally just came out of the store. Her viewer count jumped. 3 people. 15. 47. They're arresting an old lady for nothing, Maya continued, her voice sharp with disbelief. Y'all record this. Everybody record this. Other phones rose. Other cameras focused. Linda stood in handcuffs, breathing hard, mind racing through decades of Fourth Amendment law, through case precedents about unlawful detention and probable cause. But this time she wasn't wearing the robe. This time she was the defendant. And the trial was already streaming live. Don't miss what's coming next. Subscribe now. If you don't, this could be the last story you catch from me. Andrews dragged Linda toward the squad car parked 20 feet away. The handcuffs bit deeper into her wrists. Her green blazer twisted awkwardly. She stumbled once, caught herself, kept her balance through sheer will. Maya's phone tracked every step. Her livestream viewer count hit 200. This is crazy, Maya narrated. She's like 70 years old. They're treating her like a criminal. Linda's mind cleared. The initial shock burned away, replaced by something colder, sharper. The instinct drilled into her through 3 decades of courtroom combat. She stopped walking. Andrews yanked her arm. Keep moving. Officer? Linda's voice cut through the parking lot noise. I need to inform you of something. Save it for the station. Officer Andrews. She'd read his nameplate. Committed it to memory the way she'd memorized case numbers and legal citations for 28 years. You are making a mistake. The only mistake was you thinking you'd get away with it. He's pulled harder. Linda planted her feet. 57 years old when she first took the bench. 71 now. But her voice still carried the weight that once silenced rowdy courtrooms. I am Judge Linda Patterson. Each word precise, deliberate. Northern District of Illinois. Retired. The parking lot went silent. Andrews froze mid-step. Oh, what did you just say? I am a federal judge. Linda lifted her chin, meeting his eyes. And you have unlawfully detained me without probable cause. Gasps rippled through the growing crowd. Someone's phone clattered to the pavement. Oh shit, Maya breathed into her live stream. Oh shit, y'all. She's a judge. She's an actual judge. Her viewer count exploded. 500. 800. 1200. Schwartz's hand slipped off his radio. His face drained of color. She's lying, Andrews said, but his voice cracked. This is a badge number, Linda demanded. Now, ma'am, you need to. Your badge number, your full name, and the specific probable cause for this detention. Her tone shifted completely. No tremor, no fear. Pure judicial authority. You will provide this information immediately. Andrews looked at Schwartz. Schwartz looked at the cameras. At least 15 phones recording now. Maybe 20. Stop resisting. Andrews tried, yanking her toward the car again, but his voice carried desperation instead of command. Maya's live stream caught it all. The angle, the panic in Andrews' eyes, the way Schwartz backed up half a step. Officer Andrews, I am not resisting. Linda's voice remained level, calm, the voice that had sentenced white-collar criminals and drug kingpins and corrupt officials. I am standing still in handcuffs, asking for information I am legally entitled to receive. You were observed. Observed doing what? She didn't let him finish. What specific criminal act did you observe? What item did I fail to pay for? What merchandise am I concealing? Silence. Answer the question, officer. Your purse. You touched it multiple times. Touched my own purse. Linda's eyebrow arched. That's your probable cause. A woman adjusting her purse strap? The crowd murmured. Angry sounds. Disbelieving sounds. Schwartz found his voice. Ma'am, if you just calm down. I am calm, Officer Schwartz. She'd read his nameplate, too. I am also handcuffed, detained against my will, and questioning the legality of your actions. Those are not mutually exclusive states. You have the right to detain me with probable cause. Linda spoke over him. Reasonable, articulable suspicion of criminal activity. Can you articulate that suspicion? Can you describe what crime you observed me committing? Andrews's jaw worked. Nothing came out. I paid for every item in my possession. Linda continued. I have the receipt in my purse, the purse you dumped across that bench. I was leaving the store lawfully. You grabbed me without warning, without identification, without explanation. We were doing our job. Your job does not include unlawful detention. The judge in her fully awake now. Your job does not include assault. Your job does not include violating my Fourth Amendment rights in a Walmart parking lot. Maya's phone was shaking. This is insane, she whispered. She's destroying them. Someone else shouted, Let her go! Others joined, Take off the handcuffs! She didn't do anything. Andrews looked at the crowd, at the cameras, at Schwartz, whose face had gone gray. Inside the Walmart, security manager Thomas Chen was already pulling CCTV footage. His hands moved quickly across the keyboard, isolating camera angles. Pharmacy section, vitamin aisle, self-checkout, every frame showing Linda Patterson shopping normally, paying normally, leaving normally. His supervisor appeared behind him. Who is she? Says she's a federal judge. Is she? Chen was already searching on his phone. Judge Linda Patterson, Northern District. Her official portrait loaded. Distinguished, dignified. wearing the same pearl earrings she wore today. Oh, God. His supervisor went pale. Call corporate. Now. Outside, Andrews made one last attempt to salvage control. Ma'am, you're being detained for... For what? Linda's voice could have cut glass. Say it clearly. State the charge. I want to hear you articulate, on camera, what crime you believe I committed. Andrews's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing. Schwartz had backed away completely now, hands raised like he could distance himself from the disaster unfolding. Maya's live stream had 3,000 viewers. Then 5,000. Comments flooded past. She's a judge. Sue them, sue them, sue them. This is racism. Straight up, officer. Sounds scared now. Andrews leaned close to Schwartz, voice barely audible. But Maya's phone caught it anyway. We're screwed. Naomi Clark saw the live stream at 10:47 a.m., 18 minutes after it started. She was drinking cold coffee at her desk in the Chicago Tribune investigative unit when her phone exploded with notifications. 3 editors, 7 colleagues, her source at the ACLU, all sending the same link. She clicked it, watched again. By 11:15 a.m., she'd made 6 phone calls. By noon, she was in her car heading to Riverside. Naomi had spent 15 years exposing corruption, city council bribes, police misconduct, environmental violations buried in paperwork. She'd won 2 Polk Awards and an Illinois Press Association honor. She knew how to dig, knew where bodies were buried, and this story smelled like a graveyard. She arrived at the Walmart parking lot to find it still buzzing. Police tape cordoned off the area where Linda had been detained. A few officers lingered, taking statements, but most of the crowd had dispersed. Naomi found Maya Rodriguez sitting on a concrete parking barrier, phone still in hand, looking dazed. You're the one who filmed it. Maya looked up. Yeah. I'm Naomi Clark, Tribune. Can we talk? What emerged over the next 20 minutes confirmed Naomi's instincts. Maya described the officers lurking near the entrance. The sudden aggression. The way Linda tried to explain and got silenced. She didn't do anything, Maya said. Like literally nothing. She just walked out of the store. Naomi interviewed 4 other witnesses. All told the same story. Unprovoked. Excessive. Wrong. She left the parking lot and headed to the Riverside Police Department. The desk sergeant stonewalled immediately. No comment. Internal investigation. Officer safety. Can you confirm the officers' names? No comment. Can you confirm that a federal judge was detained? All detentions follow department protocol. Naomi smiled. That wasn't a denial. She filed a FOIA request for body cam footage before leaving the building. Back in her car, she started digging deeper. Officer Robert Andrews, 11 years on the force, 3 excessive force complaints, 2 dismissed, 1 resolved internally. Body cam footage mysteriously corrupted in 2 separate incidents. Officer Darrell Schwartz, 9 years, 2 complaints, both involving elderly suspects, both dismissed for insufficient evidence. Naomi's source at the county clerk's office sent over arrest records. She spent 3 hours cross-referencing data. The pattern emerged like a neon sign. Riverside PD had made 127 retail theft detentions in the past 3 months. 19 involved suspects over age 65. 16 of those 19 were minorities. Black, Hispanic, Asian. 15 of those 16 detentions were made by Andrews and Schwartz. Naomi felt the old, familiar electricity. The moment when scattered facts crystallized into proof. She called Walmart corporate. Got transferred 4 times. Finally reached a nervous PR representative named Jennifer Moss. We're conducting our own internal review, Moss said. We take these matters seriously. Do you have loss prevention quotas for local police? Long pause. Our partnership with local law enforcement follows all applicable... That's not an answer. Another pause. I'll have to get back to you. Naomi's source at Walmart Security, a guy named Danny she'd helped out on a story 2 years ago, called her 20 minutes later. You're asking about quotas. Am I asking the right question? Yeah. Danny's voice dropped. Corporate denies it, but they lean on us hard. Shrinkage numbers, Theft prevention metrics. They pressure us. We pressure cops. It's not official. Nothing in writing. But everyone knows. How many detentions per month? Varies. But if we're below target, corporate gets nasty. Threatens to pull security contracts. Naomi thanked him and hung up. She tried calling Linda Patterson's home number. Got voicemail. Left a message identifying herself, requesting an interview. Linda called back 90 minutes later. Ms. Clark, I appreciate your interest, but I'm not ready to make a statement. Judge Patterson, I'm not looking for a comment. I'm investigating a pattern. Andrews and Schwartz have done this before. Silence on the line. How many times? Linda's voice was quiet. 15 elderly minority shoppers in 3 months. That we can prove. Probably more that weren't reported. More silence. Then, what do you need from me? Nothing yet. I need evidence first. Documentation. Then we'll talk. Good. Linda sounded approving. Don't build a case on emotion. Build it on facts. Were you a prosecutor before the bench? No. But I learned from the best ones. They hung up. Naomi liked her immediately. Meanwhile, the Riverside Police Union held a press conference at 4 p.m. Union Representative Dale Fisher stood at a podium, flanked by 2 attorneys. Our officers acted in accordance with department training and protocol, Fisher said. Reading from prepared remarks, the suspect displayed behavior consistent with retail theft indicators. Our officers exercised appropriate judgment. A reporter shouted, "She's a federal judge." The suspect's identity doesn't change the facts of the detention. What facts? She paid for everything. Fisher's jaw tightened. Investigations take time. We ask the public to reserve judgment until all evidence is reviewed. The evidence is online. Thousands of people watched it happen. Edited video doesn't show the complete picture. Fisher stepped away from the microphone. No further questions. But Naomi wasn't watching the press conference. She was in a coffee shop in downtown Chicago, spreading documents across a corner table. Arrest records, complaint files, body cam malfunction reports, FOIA responses. She built a spreadsheet. Names, dates, demographics, outcomes. The pattern was so clear it was almost insulting. Andrews and Schwartz targeted elderly shoppers, specifically elderly minority shoppers. They justified detentions with vague language. Suspicious behavior, nervous handling, furtive movements. In 14 of 15 cases, charges were dropped. No theft, no evidence. Just humiliation and trauma. But the 15th case bothered Naomi, Maria Gonzalez, age 72, detained in September, charged with retail theft, pleaded guilty to avoid trial. Naomi found her number, called. Maria answered in heavily accented English. Ms. Gonzalez, my name is Naomi Clark. I'm investigating the officers who arrested you at Walmart. Maria went quiet. Then, I don't want trouble. You're not in trouble. I think you were wrongly accused. I pleaded guilty. Because you were scared. Because they pressured you. Silence. Then Maria started crying. I paid for everything, she whispered. But they said I'd go to jail. Said immigration would get involved. I just wanted it to be over. Naomi closed her eyes. Ms. Gonzalez, would you be willing to talk on the record? Will it help? Yes. Then okay. Naomi hung up and stared at her spreadsheet. 19 victims. 15 by Andrews and Schwartz. A pattern so obvious, so documented, so provable that ignoring it would require willful blindness. She opened her laptop and started writing. Don't miss what's coming next. Subscribe now. If you don't, this could be the last story you catch from me. The first call came at 2 a.m. Linda woke to her phone buzzing on the nightstand. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was breathing. Just breathing. Then a click. She lay awake until dawn. The second call came at 6:30 a.m. while she was making tea. This time, a voice. Male. Distorted. Mechanical sounding. Drop the complaint. Who is this? You heard me. Drop it. Walk away. I'm a federal judge. Threatening me is... You're a retired judge. You're nobody now. Drop it. The line went dead. Linda's hand shook as she set down the phone. She called the Riverside Police Department. Got transferred 3 times. Finally reached a detective who sounded bored. Anonymous threats happen, ma'am. Probably just trolls who saw the video. I want this documented. I'll make a note in the system. Nothing in his tone suggested he would. By Friday afternoon, Linda's address was online. Someone posted it on a police support forum. Another person shared it on Facebook. A third tweeted it with the caption, "Federal judge thinks she's above the law. Let her know what you think." Within hours, her quiet street in Riverside filled with unfamiliar cars. A pickup truck with a thin blue line decal parked across from her house. The driver sat inside, watching, taking photos. A sedan idled at the corner for 2 hours. Engine running, windows dark. Linda closed her curtains, double-checked her locks. Considered calling the police, then remembered who the police were protecting. Saturday morning, she found her tires slashed. All 4. Clean cuts. Deliberate. She stood in her driveway in her bathrobe, staring at the damage, feeling something crack inside her chest. 50 years she had lived by the law, believed in the law, served the law. And now, the law's enforcers were terrorizing her in her own driveway. She called a tow truck, called her insurance, spent 3 hours at a tire shop while mechanics shook their heads and muttered about vandals. "Happens more than you'd think," one said. "People are crazy these days." Linda didn't tell him why she was targeted. "Sunday," Carmen called, voice trembling. "Linda, my insurance just sent a letter. They're reviewing my coverage. Something about updated risk assessment." Linda's blood went cold. "When did this start?" "The letter's dated Thursday, right after the video. Carmen, listen to me. This is retaliation. They're trying to... I can't lose my insurance." Carmen was crying now. "The diabetes, the medications, I can't afford. Linda, maybe you should just let it go. Let it go. Please. I don't want you hurt. I don't want to lose my coverage. Just let them win this time." Linda hung up and sat in her kitchen, surrounded by silence. Michael's photograph watched her from the windowsill. She wondered what he'd say. Probably something wise. Something about principles mattering more than comfort. But Michael had been dead for 3 years. He didn't have to live with the consequences. She considered it, really considered it. Drop the complaint. Issue a statement saying it was a misunderstanding. Walk away. Let Andrews and Schwartz keep their badges and their pattern of abuse. Go back to quiet mornings and classical music and visits with Carmen. Pretend her wrists didn't still ache where the handcuffs cut. Pretend she couldn't still feel Andrews' hand on her arm, yanking her like property. Pretend she was fine. Monday morning. She drove to Carmen's house. Her sister lived in a small ranch-style home 20 minutes away, the kind with a wheelchair ramp and grab bars in the bathroom. The house where Carmen had raised 3 children and buried 1 husband and learned to manage a disease that never slept. Carmen answered the door with red eyes. They didn't speak. Linda just stepped inside and wrapped her arms around her sister. "I'm sorry," Carmen whispered. "I'm so sorry. I know you're doing the right thing. Don't apologize." They sat together on the couch. The local news played on low volume. Then Carmen gasped. Linda looked up. The news was replaying the Walmart footage. The moment Andrews grabbed her. The moment the handcuffs closed. The moment Linda's face showed pain and humiliation and shock. The camera zoomed in on Linda's wrists. On the dark bruises that still hadn't faded, Carmen started sobbing. "Oh, God. Oh, God, Linda. Look what they did to you. Carmen, I'm fine. You're not fine. Look at your wrists. Look at..." She couldn't finish. Just kept crying, holding Linda's hands, examining the bruises like evidence of something unforgivable. Linda sat frozen, watching her sister break down. And something shifted. The fear was still there. The exhaustion. The temptation to walk away. But stronger than all of it was a cold, clear realization. If I stay silent, Linda said quietly, they'll do this again. Carmen looked up, tears streaming. They'll find another elderly woman shopping for groceries. Linda's voice steadied. Another Maria Gonzalez who pleads guilty because she's terrified. Another person who can't fight back. But what if they hurt you? They already did. Linda touched her wrists. And I have something Maria didn't have. Something most of their victims don't have. What? Power. Linda met her sister's eyes. I know the law. I know the system. I know how to fight this. And if I don't fight it, if I, a federal judge, can be treated this way and stay silent, what chance does anyone else have? Carmen wiped her eyes, took a shaky breath. You're going to do this? Yes, even with the threats, the vandalism, my insurance, especially because of that. Linda's jaw set, because that's not law enforcement. That's intimidation. That's corruption. And I didn't spend 28 years on the bench to let it win. Carmen squeezed her hand. Then I'm with you. Your insurance. We'll figure it out. I'm not letting you do this alone. Linda felt something warm break through the fear. She left Carmen's house an hour later with renewed purpose. The anonymous calls could keep coming. The cars could keep watching. The threats could escalate. But Linda Patterson had made her decision. She was going to war. Your support truly means a lot, and helps me keep sharing more heartfelt stories with you. The letter arrived a Wednesday morning. Linda opened her mailbox to find a thick manila envelope with the Chicago law firm's return address. She carried it inside, set it on her kitchen table, and carefully broke the seal. 15 pages, heavy paper, official letterhead, amicus curiae, brief in support of Judge Linda Patterson. She read the first signature, then the second, then all 15. Federal judges from 3 circuits, colleagues she'd worked with for decades. Some retired like her, others still on the bench. Judge Marcus Thompson from the 7th Circuit, Judge Sarah Chen from the Northern District, Judge David Washington from Illinois Supreme Court, all putting their names on record, all standing with her. Linda's eyes burned. She set down the letter and pressed her palms against the table. She wasn't alone. The phone rang. A Chicago number she didn't recognize. Judge Patterson. This is David Okonkwo from the Civil Rights Legal Defense Fund. Mr. Okonkwo, we'd like to represent you. Pro bono. Full legal support for any action you want to pursue against the Riverside Police Department. I haven't decided yet whether to file suit. We know, but when you decide, we're ready. We have a team of 6 attorneys prepared to take this case as far as it needs to go. Why? Okonkwo's voice softened. Because what happens to you happens to people every day, but most of them don't have your resources, your platform, your understanding of the system. This case could change policy nationwide. That's a lot of pressure. You've handled pressure before. You were a federal judge for 28 years. Linda almost smiled. Fair point. Think about it. We're here when you're ready. After they hung up, Linda made tea and sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by silence and possibility. Then her phone rang again, and again, and again. By Thursday afternoon, Linda had received calls from 3 civil rights organizations, 2 law school clinics, the ACLU, 4 private attorneys offering pro bono work, Naomi Clark with an update on her investigation. The story runs tomorrow, Naomi said. Front page. I have documentation of 19 cases, 15 by Andrews and Schwartz, all elderly minorities. I have the CCTV footage. I have witness statements. I have everything. Ms. Clark, thank you. Thank you for not backing down. CNN picked up Naomi's article Friday morning. By noon, MSNBC had a segment. By evening, the story was national. Linda's phone exploded. Interview requests, support messages, hate mail, death threats, marriage proposals from elderly men who thought she was brave. All of it flooding in at once. She turned off her phone and sat in blessed silence. Saturday brought something unexpected. A knock on her door, Linda peered through the curtain to see an elderly Hispanic woman standing on her porch, hands clasped nervously. Linda opened the door. Judge Patterson. The woman's voice trembled. My name is Rosa Delgado. I was arrested by those same officers last year, at the same Walmart. Linda's chest tightened. Come in, please. Rosa sat in Linda's living room and told her story. Shopping for her grandson's birthday. Detained at the exit. Accused of theft. Handcuffed. Humiliated. I paid for everything, Rosa whispered. But they said I looked nervous. Said I was hiding something. I wasn't. I was just scared. Did you file a complaint? No. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. I was too ashamed. Too afraid. But when I saw what happened to you, when I saw you fight back, I thought maybe I could too. Linda took her hand. You can. We will. By Sunday, 4 more former victims had contacted Linda. All elderly. All minorities. All detained by Andrews and Schwartz with no evidence. No charges. No justice. Just trauma and humiliation and silence. Until now. Monday morning brought another unexpected call. Judge Patterson, this is Jennifer Moss from Walmart Corporate. Linda recognized the name from Naomi's article. The nervous PR representative, Ms. Moss. Our CEO would like to speak with you personally. We're deeply concerned about what happened. We had no knowledge of the quota system. We want to make this right. Making it right means changing policy. We understand. The CEO wants to discuss that with you directly. I'll consider it. She hung up and stared at Michael's photograph on the windowsill. They're running scared, she said aloud. Good. Then Tuesday happened. Naomi called at 7:00 a.m. Voice electric with urgency. Someone leaked internal precinct audio. It's all over the internet. You need to hear this. She sent the link. Linda pressed play. Captain Morrison's voice crackled through her phone speaker. Focus on elderly suspects. They get confused easily. They don't know their rights. They won't fight back. Easy detentions, easy numbers. Target them first. The room tilted. Linda played it again, then a third time. They won't fight back. Within an hour, the audio was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, every major news network. The outrage was instantaneous, explosive. Politicians issued statements. Civil rights leaders demanded investigations. The Illinois Attorney General announced a probe into Riverside PD practices. The Riverside Police Union released a statement calling the audio out of context and selectively edited. Nobody believed them. Linda received a call from the Riverside City Council. Judge Patterson, we're holding an emergency public hearing Thursday evening. We'd like you to speak, to testify about your experience. Linda thought about Rosa, about Maria Gonzalez, about the 15 other victims who'd been silenced and forgotten. She thought about Carmen's tears, about her own bruised wrists, about Michael's voice saying you're exactly where you belong. I'll be there. Thank you, Judge. Linda hung up and walked to her closet. She pulled out her most formal suit. Navy blue, the one she'd worn for difficult sentencing hearings, for cases that mattered. She laid it across her bed and began to prepare. Thursday was 3 days away. 3 days to organize her testimony, to gather her evidence, to ready herself for battle. Linda Patterson had spent 28 years delivering verdicts. Now she would deliver one more. And this time she was both judge and witness. Your support truly means a lot and helps me keep sharing more heartfelt stories with you. The Riverside City Council chambers had never been this full. Every seat taken, people standing along the walls, cameras lined up in the back, lenses trained on the council table where 5 elected officials sat, looking deeply uncomfortable. Linda arrived at 6:45 p.m., 15 minutes before the hearing. Carmen was with her. So was David Okonkwo. So were Rosa Delgado and 3 other victims who'd finally found the courage to speak. The crowd parted as Linda walked down the center aisle. Someone started clapping, then another person. Then half the room was on its feet, applause rolling through the chamber like thunder. Linda nodded once, took her seat in the front row. Then she saw them. Officer Robert Andrews sat in the second row on the right side, flanked by two union attorneys. His face was pale, sweat beaded on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Officer Darrell Schwartz sat beside him, staring at his hands. Neither looked up when Linda entered. At 7:09 p.m., Council President Margaret Walsh gavelled the hearing to order. This emergency session addresses concerns regarding the Riverside Police Department's detention practices. We'll hear from several speakers tonight. We ask for respect and decorum. She was drowned out by murmurs, angry voices, people who'd been waiting years for this moment. Walsh called Naomi Clark first. Naomi approached the podium, carrying a laptop and a folder thick with documentation. She connected to the projection screen behind the council table. My name is Naomi Clark. I'm an investigative reporter with the Chicago Tribune. Over the past 10 days, I've documented a pattern of unlawful detentions by the Riverside Police Department. She clicked a button. Numbers filled the screen. Charts, graphs, data that told a story more damning than words. In the past 3 months, Riverside PD made 127 retail theft detentions. 19 involved suspects over age 65. 16 of those 19 were minorities. 15 were detained by officers Andrews and Schwartz. The room stirred. I'm going to show you 3 pieces of evidence. The first is internal precinct audio. She pressed play. Captain Morrison's voice filled the chamber. Focus on elderly suspects. They get confused easily. They don't know their rights. They won't fight back. Easy detentions, easy numbers. Someone gasped. Others shouted. Walsh gavelled for order. Naomi continued. The second piece of evidence is CCTV footage from Walmart, showing Judge Patterson's shopping trip. The screen shifted. Grainy security footage showed Linda moving through aisles, selecting items, placing them in her cart. Nothing suspicious, nothing unusual. Just an elderly woman shopping. Then the checkout footage. Every item scanned. Credit card processed. Receipt printed. The timestamp showed 9:47 a.m. Judge Patterson paid for everything, Naomi said. The officers detained her 90 seconds after this footage ends. The screen shifted again. Maya's live stream played. The moment Andrews grabbed Linda. The moment her purse spilled. The moment handcuffs closed around her wrists. Then the audio. Andrews' voice. Sharp and cruel. Don't lie! You people always hide something. The room exploded. People shouted. Someone threw a water bottle. Walsh gavelled frantically, calling for order, threatening to clear the chamber. It took 5 minutes for the chaos to settle. Naomi returned to her seat. Walsh looked shaken. Judge Patterson, would you like to speak? Linda stood. The room went silent. She walked to the podium without notes, without props. Just herself and 28 years of authority she'd earned line by line, case by case, verdict by verdict. My name is Linda Patterson. I served as a federal judge in the Northern District of Illinois for 28 years. I retired 2 years ago to care for my sister, who has diabetes. Her voice carried clearly, calmly. On November 7th, I went to Walmart to buy glucose test strips. I paid for my items. I have the receipt. I left the store lawfully, and I was detained, handcuffed, and humiliated by officers Andrews and Schwartz without probable cause. She paused. Let it sink in. But this isn't about me. This is about Rosa Delgado, who was detained last year and was too afraid to complain. This is about Maria Gonzalez, who pleaded guilty to a crime she didn't commit because she thought she had no choice. This is about 15 other elderly shoppers who were targeted because officers believed they wouldn't fight back. Her eyes found Andrews. He looked away. This is about a police department that valued numbers over justice, quotas over rights, convenience over truth. Linda's voice hardened. I presided over hundreds of cases involving Fourth Amendment violations. I wrote opinions on reasonable suspicion and probable cause. I sentence people for abusing positions of power. And now I stand before you as a victim of that exact abuse. The room was dead silent. If this can happen to a federal judge, someone who knows the law, who has resources, who has a platform, imagine what happens to people who don't. Imagine the grandmother who's too scared to complain, the immigrant who's terrified of deportation, the person who believes the police are always right. She turned to face Andrews and Schwartz directly. You targeted the vulnerable because you thought we were easy. You were wrong. Andrews stood abruptly. His attorney grabbed his arm, but he shook her off. I resign, he said, voice breaking. Effective immediately. The chamber erupted. Schwartz stood too, slower, defeated. Me too. I resign. Walsh gavelled desperately. Order! Order! Police Chief Thomas Bradley rose from his seat in the back. Judge Patterson. His voice cut through the noise. On behalf of the Riverside Police Department, I apologize. What happened to you was wrong. What happened to all of you was wrong. We failed in our duty. We failed our community. The crowd's energy shifted, still angry, but channeled now, focused. Someone started chanting, Patterson! Patterson! Others joined. The chamber rang with her name. Linda raised her hand. The chanting stopped. This is not revenge, she said quietly, but every person heard her. This is accountability. The room went silent. Accountability means those officers face consequences. Accountability means this department changes its practices. Accountability means the 15 other victims get justice. Accountability means this never happens again. She looked at each council member in turn. That's what I want. That's what we all deserve. Not revenge, just accountability. Linda stepped away from the podium. The chamber exploded in applause. But Linda didn't hear it. She walked back to her seat beside Carmen, sat down, and folded her hands in her lap. It was done. The verdict was delivered. Now came the sentencing. The federal indictment came down 6 weeks later. United States of America versus Sir Robert Andrews and Darrell Schwartz. 5 counts each. Deprivation of rights under color of law, false arrest, filing false reports, evidence suppression, conspiracy to violate civil rights. The U.S. Attorney held a press conference on the courthouse steps. These officers violated their oaths, she said. They targeted vulnerable members of our community. They abused their power, and they will face justice. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Linda sat in the gallery every single day. So did Rosa Delgado. So did Maria Gonzalez and 4 other victims who'd finally found their voices. The prosecution presented the CCTV footage, the live stream, the leaked audio, Naomi Clark's investigation, internal affairs reports showing patterns of complaints ignored for years. The defense argued training deficiencies, departmental pressure. They claimed Andrews and Schwartz were scapegoats for systemic problems. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Andrews stared at the table, expressionless. Schwartz put his head in his hands and wept. The judge, a stern woman named Patricia Morrison, no relation to the captain, sentenced them to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years supervised release. You betrayed the badge, she said. You betrayed your community. You betrayed every honest officer who does this job the right way. Linda watched from the gallery, feeling neither triumph nor satisfaction, just relief. It was over, but the work was just beginning. The Riverside Police Department underwent a complete overhaul. Captain Morrison, who'd created the quota system, was forced into early retirement. The mayor appointed a new chief from outside the department. A black woman named Angela Wright, who'd spent 20 years reforming troubled precincts. Her first act was to abolish all detention quotas. Her second was to invite the Department of Justice to install a federal monitor. Her third was to implement mandatory anti-bias training for every officer, every quarter, no exceptions. We will earn back this community's trust, Chief Wright said at her first press conference. Or we will keep trying until we do. Walmart Corporate did something unprecedented. They created a new nationwide policy, drafted it with input from civil rights organizations, legal experts, and Linda herself. They called it the Patterson Protocol. It required independent review before any elderly shopper could be detained for suspected theft, required video evidence, required management approval, required treating every customer with dignity regardless of age, race, or appearance. Judge Patterson's experience exposed a failure in our system. The CEO said in a video message to all employees, "We're changing that system, starting today." Linda watched the announcement from her kitchen, tea growing cold in her hands. Michael's photograph sat on the windowsill, catching morning light. "We did it," she whispered to him. 6 months later, Mayor Elizabeth Chen called Linda personally. "Judge Patterson, we'd like to invite you to a small ceremony at Walmart. If you're comfortable with that." Linda almost laughed. "What kind of ceremony?" "You'll see. Will you come?" "I'll come." The following Saturday, Linda drove to the Walmart on Route 34. The parking lot where she'd been handcuffed. The entrance where Andrews had grabbed her arm. The place where her quiet life had shattered. A small crowd waited at the entrance. Mayor Chen, Chief Wright, Walmart's district manager, Naomi Clark with her camera, and Rosa and Maria and the other victims standing together. The mayor stepped forward. "Judge Patterson, thank you for coming. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for teaching us that accountability isn't just a word, it's a commitment." She gestured to the entrance. A bronze plaque had been mounted beside the automatic doors. The Patterson Protocol, dignity and justice for all customers, established 2024 in honor of Judge Linda Patterson, whose courage changed policy nationwide. Linda's throat tightened. "Thank you," she managed. "Would you like to shop?" the mayor asked, smiling. Linda smiled back. "Actually, yes. I need glucose test strips." They walked inside together. The mayor, Chief Wright, Carmen, who'd driven separately and was already crying. Employees stopped to applaud. Customers joined in. The sound rolled through the store like a wave. Linda made her way to the pharmacy section, selected the glucose strips. The same brand, the same purpose. For Carmen, always for Carmen. At checkout, a young cashier, different from before, but with kind eyes, scanned the items. Total is $24.83. Linda handed over her credit card. The transaction processed, receipt printed. The cashier looked up, recognition dawning in her face. "You're Judge Patterson." "I am." "We're honored you're here, Judge." "Really honored." Linda took her bag and her receipt. "Thank you." She walked toward the exit, past the place where her purse had spilled, past the bench where her dignity had scattered like loose change. The automatic doors opened. Sunlight warmed her face. November air, cool and clean. Carmen waited by the car, smiling through tears. Linda walked to her sister, handed her the glucose strips. "Got them," she said simply. Carmen hugged her fiercely. "I love you. I love you too." They stood together in the parking lot, two elderly women holding each other while the world moved around them. No handcuffs, no humiliation, no fear. Just sunlight and sisterhood, and the quiet knowledge that justice, when you fight hard enough for it, can actually win. Linda looked back at the Walmart entrance one more time. The plaque gleamed in the afternoon light. She thought of Andrews in prison, of Schwartz learning what powerlessness felt like, of Chief Wright rebuilding a department, of 15 victims who'd finally been heard. She thought of Michael, gone but never forgotten, and she thought of herself, 71 years old, retired federal judge, diabetic sister's keeper, survivor, fighter, winner. "Ready to go home?" Carmen asked. Linda smiled. "Yes, let's go home." They drove away from the Walmart, away from the cameras and the plaques and the history. Drove toward Carmen's house for lunch, toward ordinary Saturday afternoons, toward the quiet life Linda had always wanted. But this time, she carried it with her. Victory. Not revenge. Accountability. Justice. Wow, you actually made it to the end. You're officially one of my favorites. The next story's even weirder. More twists, more drama, more chaos. Don't just sit there. Tap that video on your screen and dive right in.